MachineTutorials.com.
Yo, what's good? This is Saint Joe, MachineTutorials.com. Here with a quick video to give you an overview of the 2.1 update. There seems to be a lot of features that are aimed at those of us that have been using Maschine for a while, a lot of workflow enhancements and fixes and things like that. So just want to go over them really quick. First, I'm going to start in the File menu and go to Preferences. You can see we now have the option to enable the metronome automatically when you're recording. That means when you stop recording, it's going to automatically turn off. And for me, that was a big one. I didn't like having to manage the metronome separately from the record button. So I just want to show you how that works really quick. So it's just as soon as you enable record, if you have this option enabled, then the metronome's going to come on. As soon as you disable it, it's going to go off. You don't have to do shift record to make it happen. I just do that automatically. It's just a habit. But if I was in play mode, so really cool there. Another thing they updated is the input quantize. You can now turn it to play quantize, so you can actually quantize the stuff as you're playing it. So that was another thing that was gone that a lot of people wanted to see. Now, you know, if you open Maschine as a plugin inside of a DAW, you can trigger your scenes via MIDI or program changes, but there were a lot of people that were hoping to be able to do that in standalone. So if you go up here, you see MIDI scene change. You can choose the MIDI note, and you can actually choose the MIDI channel if you want to, and a specific interface or device. I'm going to just choose the MK2 just for the demonstration. So say I have it set to MK2. I'll put that in MIDI mode. And now you can see, actually let's just put another scene, a couple scenes in here so you can see it work. And you can see the scenes. I can actually switch through them by sending those MIDI notes. Now it starts the very first scene. Scene 1 is like C-2, and then it goes up chromatically from there. So as long as you're able to set your MIDI device to those notes, you should be good. You can use whatever type of external MIDI device you want. And this is definitely good for situations where you're doing, like, you know, live performances and live sets and different stuff like that. And you want to be able to change really quickly on the fly while still controlling all your stuff in Maschine. So really cool to be able to have that option. Another thing you may notice in the interface is you no longer see the volume and pan knobs, and I think that's a move towards, you know, using the mixer a lot more for those type of functions. But if you hover over this section, you'll see that they come up, and I guess that's more like a quick adjust, or, you know, kind of something like that. And while we're messing with the scenes, if you notice, say sometimes you want to quickly duplicate a scene or a pattern, if you hold down Control on the PC, I believe on the Mac, it's going to be the Alt button, and drag, you can actually go over there and duplicate. So let's say we want to duplicate this one. It's really quick. And of course, this works with if you have plugins, you know, sounds, patterns, anything that you can copy or duplicate. If you hold down that Control button or that Alt button, you'll be able to do that rather quickly. Another thing that a lot of people are going to be excited about is, you see, if I right click on my group, I got the MIDI batch set up again, so I can go sounds to MIDI notes. It'll automatically, you know, map out the sounds chromatically, and then actually put them on the same MIDI channels. You can drag that whole file into one channel instead of having the separate files and the separate channels and having to go in and do the transpose, you know, manually on each pad. Now you can do it really quickly right here. So I was definitely happy to see that. Now let's say you want to load a plugin. We'll just do Synth, and you'll notice that it actually renames the pad now. It renames the pad to whatever plugin you just loaded. And if you remember in the update, if you were loading just a blank plugin, it wouldn't rename it. The only time it would rename it is if you were loading a preset from the browser. So definitely, again, just one of those workflow things that I'm really, really happy to see come back. Let's get into some of the controller enhancements. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just load, let's just load this kit right here. I'm going to load it with the pattern. So now I got this kit load. Let's say this was a pattern that I was working on, and maybe this section right here, I wasn't really feeling it. So I want to show you something that they added. Check this out. So you can see in real time, you can actually go in and erase those patterns really, really quickly just by holding down erase and whatever group button for the pattern that you want to erase. So really cool there. If we come over here to navigate, see you got your browser, open and close your browser. You got your mod section, so you can open and close that, and then you'll see a mixer button. So if I was in the mixer page, you can expand and collapse those mixer channels. Now, speaking of the mixer, I know a lot of MK1 and MK2 users were looking for a mixer on the controller. You can actually pull that up, get out of Navigate. You don't have to get out of Navigate, but anytime you want to pull up the mixer on the controller, you do a shift and sampling, which is edit mode or whatever, and you can see you got the actual levels for your channels, the names. You can go over, see the rest of them. You can do groups, sounds, and if you want to do panning, you just click up here, panning and levels. Really cool stuff there. So one of the big changes in 2.0 was the way sampling and record history and everything was handled, and I know it messed with a lot of people's workflow, the way that record history was the default page and you had to, you couldn't really access your pads and all different stuff. But let's just start a new group, and let's say I want to sample on this pad. So I'll go into sampling, I'm gonna set it to internal, and we're gonna have it sample the kit that's on group A. And I'll just hit start, and now I'm gonna go over here to my group. You can see I actually have access to the pads, so I'll stop, and you can see there's the sample right there. But the thing is, this isn't the record history page. So if I wanted to get into the record history page, I press shift, and now I can go into the record history, and then all these pads will be the takes. And if I don't want to do that, I can come out, and now I can just go quickly between the pads. So really was happy to see that. For me, that's just a huge workflow thing in terms of Maschine and the way you can quickly go from pad to pad sampling. So I was definitely glad to see they fixed that. So let's get out of there. Another thing I want to show you is in the browser. So let's go over here to browse, and let's pull up something. I'll pull up instruments, something with a lot of content. So let's say we're in instruments. Of course, you can browse as usual, one by one. But let's say you want to quickly go through a long list. If you hold shift, it'll now go by 20 at a time. So it lets you go through that larger list of sounds, samples, instruments, whatever, presets a lot quicker than going one by one. And I know this one was another thing that a lot of people have been asking for in terms of the browser, just a way to just go through a lot quicker through that long list of data. So was definitely glad to see that as well. Now there's also some updates in the drum synth, which is really cool because I like that they keep improving the drum synth, making it an even more powerful tool. Lots of different genres and styles that you can mess with. So what I want to do, I'm going to just erase this. I want to load up the kick module. And I want to pull up that grit kick. Has an electronic sound, kind of. But you'll see on the arrow, there's a grind and an amount. I turn the amount all the way up so you can hear what's going on. A little bit of a distortion, bit crush type sound. But you'll see as I add more grind, it's almost a metallic sound to it. So a nice little character. You can turn on the gate, and let's turn up the decay so you can kind of hear what that's doing. So we got the gate on. You hold the pad down. Really cool there. And then also, let's go over to the shaker. So I'll load the shaker up, go down to percussion, and I want to go over to shaker. So sounds cool. But you can actually change the mode to performer. And of course, it's going to go along with your tempo. You can even do fills. You go over here to the next page. You got your rate, you got your length settings, so we can make it longer. You can mess with the offset. You can even mess with the swing and the twist. So really cool stuff. So really quick, I just want to do a really basic pattern to kind of play it along with the kick so you can get a feel for how you could use the performance mode. And finally, I want to show you something with the plugin. So let's say I want to go over to my master, and maybe I want to load Supercharger GT. So let's say I have this loaded, and I'm listening to it, I'm monitoring. let's say I want to watch my master compressor, but I still want to be able to go over and manipulate, you know, my pads and my groups and stuff. I can actually pin this. So if I pin it, it's going to stay open. So you can see you can now pin your plugins, which is really cool if you got like a limiter or, you know, even an EQ or whatever, something on your master that you want to always be able to look at while you're manipulating your different groups and sounds. Or I know that a lot of people out there that are using Contact. This is definitely going to be beneficial. Let's say you load Contact into the first slot in a group and you want to use the rest of the pads to send multiple channels of MIDI to Contact. You can now do that easily. It's a lot more friendly on the workflow because you can pin Contact. That means the Contact interface will stay open. You can go in, pull up your different sounds. It doesn't matter which pad you hit because you'll still be able to see that plugin. So being able to pin that plugin, really, really cool. So again, a lot of things in terms of workflow that have been enhanced or brought back or made to work like we're used to. So a lot of people that have been using Maschine for a while know there's a lot of things in here in terms of workflow that you're definitely going to be happy to see back. Of course, if you got any questions, let me know. This is St. Joe, MachineTutorials.com. Rate, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see y'all later. Peace.
MachineTutorials.com